John, should I start 9 or give them another 2 minutes?
Well, your call, whenever you're ready.
All right, I think it's 9. Maybe we will 1 more minute and we'll get started.
Sounds great.
All right, we are at 9:01. Let's start. Let me make sure I'm not on mute. All right. Welcome, everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Immersion Day with Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM on AWS. Let's start by introducing the speakers. I will go ahead because I'm Vinay Madhi, Solutions Architect, working for AWS for the last 2.5 years. Before that, I worked in the industry as a backend engineer / architect for close to 16 years, both for big companies as well as small startups. John, quick intro, please.
Sure. Hi, my name is John Meredith. I'm a technical trainer here at Sumo Logic. I'm based on the U.S. East Coast, specifically up in New Hampshire in the U.S. So for those who are not familiar with the area, I'm about an hour north of Boston, Massachusetts on the U.S. East Coast. Have been with Sumo a little over almost 3 years now. Have worked in various roles in IT, including IT manager, DBA, programmer, network admin, all that fun stuff. Hold a couple of AWS certifications as well as lots of other certifications as well. So, and have been teaching since about 1983 when I started off as a Navy instructor. So welcome.
Thanks, John. All right, coming to today's agenda, I will represent today's Immersion Day from AWS side of the house, talking about Cloud SIEM, what we have done in terms of automation, quick start deployment, what Sumo has done along with partnership with AWS. John will take over after that, and then he will do a hands-on lab for Cloud SIEM powered by AWS, as well as the Cloud SIEM Advanced powered by AWS. Then you have an option to take the SIEM Advanced powered by AWS certification, which John will help you guys, guide through the event as well. At the end, Q&A, wrap up, and event survey. All right. I will talk about some of the security recommendations from AWS proposed by what we call as SRA. SRA stands for Security Reference Architecture, and how Sumo automated the best practices deployment via quick start. So if you look at this, right, what SRA proposes is for any organization, right, of a decent size, we propose breaking your account structure into multiple accounts. It is a set of guidelines. Basically, if you want to understand SRA, you can just Google AWS Security Reference Architecture. The first link is what you will see. SRA is a set of guidelines for deploying the full complement of AWS security services in a multi-account environment. It can be used to help design, implement, and manage AWS security services so that they align with AWS recommended and best practices. As you all know by now, AWS has a service called AWS Organizations, which help you create multiple accounts and have a structure associated with those accounts, basically a hierarchical kind of structure, right? Some of the advantages of breaking a big account into multiple account structure is you can group your workloads based on business purpose and ownership, apply distinct security guardrails, thereby constraining access to sensitive data. So in terms of best practices, if you see here, what we always say is for an AWS organization account, you have a management account, which is more like a master taking care of all the children accounts. Have an organization unit. When I say OU is an organization unit, but basically it's a collection of related accounts. So you have one OU for your security, one OU for your log archiving, one OU for your infrastructure. In the OU security, sorry. Let me go back. Yeah. In the security OU, you can always combine security tooling account, log archival account. Have a separate organizational unit for your workloads where you can deploy your enterprise applications. Then you have an infrastructure account managed by your infra team for network accounts, shared roles, and all those access privileges in the infrastructure account. This is, I know this doesn't align with what all companies do, but this is a very good starting point for you to kind of organize your multiple accounts. Yeah, we dig a little bit deeper in the slide into the security tooling account. You can see you can deploy various security services in this account via a concept called as delegated administrator account. Thereby, you can monitor all your AWS accounts, I mean children account, and automating security alerting and response. With this approach, what you get is consistent guardrails with centralized management and governance across all of your accounts. For example, you can deploy your guard duty, CloudTrail, AWS config, security hub, and all other security services in a single account. This is again going one level deeper into a log archival account, right? This can serve as a dedicated account for ingesting and archiving all your security related logs and backups. This will serve as an immutable and durable storage with proper guardrails, giving access only to authorized personnel. Primary sources for logs can be like your CloudTrail logs, VPC flow logs, access logs from your CloudFront, AWS WAF, DNS, Route 53. S3 can serve as your centralized storage here, and you can always put all your logs, and then maybe you can create subfolders, basically organize them into different buckets as well. Yeah, so this is what Sumo has done so far in terms of what you have to do, right? In terms of a quick start deployment. On your left is what we have done, and on your right is how it should be deployed. Basically, the entire architecture is all about automating collection of your guard duty and CloudTrail across multiple accounts and regions as well, thereby implementing best practices proposed by AWS Security Reference Architecture. It does optimize your security operations because you are collecting all your guard duty in a single account as well as CloudTrail across multiple accounts. And when you push this to Sumo Logic, what you get is Sumo Logic Global Intelligence Service to benchmark against threats from other customers to identify rare or critical threats. I know most of you are interested in the deployment side of the piece, right? I mean, if you go to the quick start and download the quick start and try to deploy it, first you have we call it as a master's cloud formation template. This template will grant your AWS management account to kind of grant permissions to a delegated admin account and for enabling CloudTrail, organizational trail for the entire organizations. So basically, the delegated admin account will help you. Usually, you delegated admin account into the security tooling account I talked earlier, and that will serve as your administrator account for all your security purposes. Once you do that delegated admin internal and give permissions for the organization trail, then management account will create the organization CloudTrail and deliver logs to the S3 account bucket in the log archival account here, right? Then you can also have an option to use the customer managed key. Then in terms of guard duty, all your current and also the new members which will be added into your organization will enable guard duty automatically through AWS organization invite method, and then send your guard duty findings to the security tooling account here. Then there is a concept of setting up guard duty events processor combination via CloudWatch events and the Lambda functions to send the findings in this account in HTTP format to a HTTP endpoint, then all the logs and guard duty findings will be forwarded to a Sumo Logic account via an appropriate hosted collector. So this is what we are doing here, right? I mean, basically on a very high level, you are turning on your organization trail. You're also turning on your guard duty, collecting it in your security and log archival accounts and pushing it to Sumo Logic. Once it is in Sumo Logic, that's where John will take over and John will talk through this hands-on demos, hands-on immersion day today. Over to you, John.
Thank you, Vinay.
You want to share your screen?
I'm saying, yeah, you want to stop sharing? I'll share my screen and we'll.
Yep, I stopped.
Flip it up. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right. So as Vinay mentioned, obviously AWS has a lot of really powerful tools in their tool belt here with regards to their environment. And so what we want to do is use Sumo Logic to be able to focus and look at the security aspects of your AWS environment. Now, Sumo Logic really focuses on two areas: observability and security. For the purposes of this workshop, we're just going to focus on security. We do offer other AWS immersion days with regards to observability, and you can see how we can see across your AWS environments and troubleshoot and all that fun stuff. This focus of today's session here is all about security. So, the challenges that you and I face is that you've got multitude of cloud environments here that you need to support. And you may find yourself in a situation where either you've got a SOC, a security operations center, or maybe you don't. Regardless of whether you do or don't, we'll talk in a minute about the tools that you have in Sumo Logic to kind of help yourself. But obviously you need to know from a security perspective how you are doing. There's a compliance issue concern. There is a, obviously general of a security is concern. There's a threat landscape out there that, people are trying to go after companies and that sort of thing. And while I think AWS has done a fantastic job of making themselves secure, again, you want to be aware of what's happening. So there's a shift in the threat landscape. Obviously, if you do have a SOC team, there's an issue of alert fatigue, trying to constantly go through logs, go through metrics and see what's going on. We want to make all of that easy, and that's our goal. So we have come up with something here called Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM, powered by AWS. And you'll find it's basically this Sumo Logic security offerings in conjunction with AWS, and it's something that AWS can provide to you all. Okay. Again, here are some of the bullet points. Again, to reduce your complexity as you expand your AWS environment and that sort of thing. It just kind of goes along with it. I'll let you see what's going on across your AWS environments, across your regions, that sort of thing. Again, all of your data is staying in AWS, and it's easy to buy and or try through the AWS marketplace. In fact, when we get to the end of this presentation, I'll show you how you can set up a trial and you can check it out, test it out, okay? Now, again, most companies fall into one of two categories. Either you have a security operations center or you don't have a security operations center, okay? If you don't have a security operations center, what you may want to do is get the Cloud SIEM powered by AWS solution. And what you'll find is these are built-in applications and built-in queries that you and I can run and see what's going on with regards to the security aspects of your security readiness, your compliance, things along those lines. And so you'll find that we've got some pre-built dashboards and pre-built applications ready to go. For example, you'll see one on guard duty, but we've got other built-in AWS type pre-built solutions. And then you can also write your own queries to query your AWS data to see who's logging in, where they're logging in from, what operating system they're logging in from. Does it make sense for your business? And you'll see some examples of that. Now, additionally, if you have a SOC besides the Cloud SIEM, you can also get the Cloud SIEM Advanced powered by AWS. And this is a security information and event management system that we offer that makes it very easy. We automatically adjust all of your AWS logs as well as other logs from other systems. And we're able to see where some of your security issues might be coming from. And so in the next hour and 45 minutes, we're going to go through all of these areas and you're going to see firsthand how this all works. Additionally, there's some hands-on exercises that you get to participate with. So before I get started here, are there any specific questions that any of you all have that I can go ahead and answer? If you've got a question, you can put it in the chat box, or you can unmute your mic and ask your question directly before I get started. All right then. So, as I said, here's my contact information in case anybody wants it. 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, and again, I'll put that in the chat box if you like. Our focus here is we're going to do a little security demo using Sumo Logic so you can see the sort of information that we can get. Then we're going to focus on security analytics with Cloud SIEM. Going to focus on those queries, specifically looking at the AWS Guard Duty application. You're going to be able to log into our training environment. You're going to be able to see firsthand the AWS Guard Duty applications, as well as some other applications that we might have. We can also install various other applications if we want to. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look at the Cloud SIEM product as far as a security information and event management. And we'll take a little guided tour of that, a little independent investigation, go through a little demonstration. We'll wrap it up. And if you want to, at the end of this, there is a 30-minute, 20-question exam that you're welcome to take. You can take it if you want. You don't want to take it, you certainly don't have to. But I thought, we normally do training. We normally do it in 3-hour blocks for 2 hours of lectures and labs and hands-on demos and things like that. And then there's an hour for certification exams. So all of our normal instructor-led courses or self-paced courses come with a certification exam to, so you can go back to the office and say, hey, I've learned something new and mastered a new competency. Okay. So I mentioned before, Sumo Logic is really noted for, two things: observability, being able to see across your environments to see what's breaking down, what the issues are, things like that, troubleshoot, and then also security. So with Sumo Logic, right, I can look operationally, are my systems up and down, what's going on, that sort of thing. I can see where people are logging into and where they're logging in from. This is obviously our focus for today. With regards to your business, right, you can sit there and see, what are they buying? What are they interested in? What kind of activities my web server seeing, that sort of thing. And then also at a very high level, I can see the operational intelligence level, the security intelligence level, the business intelligence level across all of my globally across the world. So what's really helpful about that is that, for example, if AWS guard duty is telling us there's an attack going on in the world, at a very high level, we can see perhaps who's being impacted and get a sense for that. And it means that you can get a sense for that. As far as your data goes, again, it could be on various applications. Obviously, it could be very well on AWS, run on the cloud of AWS. That's great. By the way, Sumo Logic does run on AWS itself. So we run as software as a service. And of course, you could be running other software as a service applications, Salesforce, or whatever different applications you're running. Maybe you're running Zoom like we are right now. And you can get information about, how your Zoom meetings are going or how your Salesforce data is going, that sort of thing. So your data can come from mobile apps, third-party apps, that sort of thing. Again, Sumo Logic runs on AWS. We are scalable. We are elastic. We support multi-tenancy. You'll find that in Sumo Logic, we've got a bunch of machine learning as well as advanced analytics that we can use, as well as a bunch of APIs. So you can programmatically do things in Sumo Logic through an API call, like create users, set up a collector, things along those lines. Probably the most important thing on this slide, as far as I'm concerned, is these certifications. So we are FedRAMP moderate authorized as far as our security analytics and stuff go. We're in the process of doing the same with the Cloud SIEM product right now, but we are FedRAMP moderate authorized. We also SOC 2 compliant, CSA STAR compliant, PCI compliant. So we take these certifications by these outside agencies very seriously, and we do a great job of maintaining them and enhancing them. Again, our focus today, when you think about security and you're thinking about your AWS environments and things like that, there's probably three major areas that you're probably concerned about. There is the audit and compliance, right? Am I, my platform secure? Is everything working the way it's supposed to? What's my, some sort of metrics with regards to, my compliance as far as my, any types of attacks, how remediation, mean time to detect, mean time to repair, things like that. And you'll find that we've got solutions for that. Additionally, we have what we call here in the Cloud SIEM powered by AWS. We have our various searches where you and I can create these dashboards. Now, obviously, this whole thing is a dashboard. This dashboard consists of separate panels. These separate panels, each one of these panels represents a query. So using a SQL-like query language, you can write a query against your AWS logs and various logs of your systems to see, again, where people are logging in from, what types of environments they're logging in from, any outlier detection type threats, things along those lines. So this is the Cloud SIEM. And then, as I said before, if you have a SOC, then chances are you'll also want the Cloud SIEM Advanced. The Cloud SIEM Advanced is where we have this solution information event management system, which does threat correlation, also does workflow with event management system, and basically reduces a lot of your analyst fatigue by automatically telling you what you really need to focus on. And it's also an event management system. So as you resolve these things, fix these things, you can document that and keep that as part of a historical record. So these are the three things that we're going to focus on over the next hour and 25 minutes. Yeah. Typically, when we think about this first aspect, I go back here to the audit and compliance aspect, right? And the Cloud SIEM environment. Here's where we get to create searches. We get to create queries and say, look, I want to find out where my users are logging in from. If you're a regionally based company and they're logging in from outside of your region, might make a suspicious, something to consider. Maybe they're on vacation, maybe they're on holiday. although I hope they're not logging in. But the point is, you want to know where people are logging in from, what types of activity are they trying to do when they're logging in, that sort of thing. And you can build queries to do that, and then you can take those queries and add those as panels to a dashboard. So you can build dashboards, and you can also build alerts from those queries that if something bad happens, you can immediately be notified via PagerDuty or Slack or Teams or whatever. And so you can immediately take action on those sort of things. As well as we also want to be able to do some advanced analytics. We want to be able to do some statistical analysis, some outlier type configurations and stuff like that. So you'll find the easiest way of building and using things in Sumo Logic is by using our out-of-the-box applications. So we've got a bunch, about almost 200 out-of-the-box applications that we've got set up for example, for Okta, for various aspects of AWS, for Office 365, for Salesforce, a whole slew of various systems, Kubernetes and things. So you can see out of the box how those systems are behaving, both from a security aspect as well as an operational aspect. And we'll show you here in just a minute what that looks like. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to walk you through a case here, and then I'm going to invite you to log in where we can kind of analyze and see what's going on. But for example, we have a CrowdStrike application that you can install. And once you install it and you connect it to the data that's coming into your AWS environment, to your CrowdStrike logs, it'll automatically generate these panels, which will give you information about, what sort of threats are you seeing? What sort of activity are you seeing? And you can sit there and then obviously decide how you want to focus and attack and migrate those things. So let me give you a little demonstration here real quick of Sumo Logic. So bear with me a second while I stop my screen share. Now I'm logged into Sumo Logic, and in a few minutes, I'm going to have you log in as well. Okay, but not right now. For this demo, I'm going to actually switch over to our demo environment. And here in our demo environment, we can go out here to our shared folder, which is a shared area that you and I can see. We can all see the stuff that's in our shared folder. There's also a personal folder. If you want to save things in your personal folder, you can put them there and you can share them with others. But here, what I want to do in the shared library is I want to go into this folder which says SIEM demo. And here in SIEM demo, it has some stuff underneath it. Okay. So here there's a folder here called Security Demo 3.0 that I'm going to open up. And you'll see I've got these lovely green icons. What are these green icons? Well, these green icons are dashboards. And so when I click on the Security Overview AWS 3.0 AWS, it is opening up this particular dashboard, and this particular dashboard has a series of panels. Here is a panel. A panel represents a query. Here is another panel. Here is another panel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we can install an application. I'll show where those apps are in a minute, where I have these pre-built panels, and all I've got to do is connect it to where I brought data into the Sumo Logic environment. What did I call that data? I connect that application to these, and it starts to populate these. So here I can see where my folks are logging in from. If I'm a worldwide organization, this all makes probably great sense. But again, I might want to be careful of certain parts of the world where I don't expect people to log in from. Just check and make sure they're logging in. Over here, I can see when I receive specific IP addresses, we can look up through CrowdStrike and see if those IP addresses have any known malicious activity associated with them. Are they from a known threatening source? We can do that with IP addresses, domain names, email addresses, all kinds of different things. But we have a partnership with CrowdStrike that allows us to see if we have IP addresses that have maybe a medium threat or a high threat. And then we can look into this a little bit more. Here I have a situation where a user has logged in. They've logged in the last 3 hours from 2 different IP addresses, which are geographically separated. And I don't know about you, but it's very difficult to get from the United States to Egypt in under 3 hours or 3 hours or less. So I would consider this perhaps a suspicious login. Now, maybe they're VPN and they're being redirected, whatever, but this is still some pretty good information. I've got something I need to look at. I need to check out, okay? Each one of these panels, as I said, is an underlying query. And just to the left of the little blue funnel here, if I click on it, that actually shows me the underlying query that makes this up. And for those of you who have a bit of programming knowledge and stuff like that, this kind of looks SQL-ish, and it is very much like SQL. And this is the query language that we use to build these sort of things. So we can build these queries, we can add them to a dashboard, and that's how these dashboards and these panels get constructed. Now, not only can I see where my users are logging in from, but maybe I want to look at my traffic, right, from my S3 bucket. And then down here, I've got these various different sources. And I can actually click on this legend and filter and turn on or turn off different sources that I want to look at. So where is the volume coming from in my S3 bucket? Over here, I want to look at maybe my AWS guard duty logs and see what sort of log messages I'm getting over the last 60 minutes. Or as I continue to scroll down, I can see my firewall traffic. And obviously, I'm receiving a lot more traffic than I am sending. So if I turn off my bytes received, here's my sent traffic, and you can see it's in the, at most, maybe 3.4 megs. But my bytes received is in the area of 76 megs. All right. But I can see if I've got any sudden spikes, that might indicate some sort of abnormal activity. Over here, I want to look at my VPC flow data. And this is an outlier diagram. So here I am seeing my data, and it's calculated based on standard deviation, a range, an upper and lower range. And as long as I'm in my upper and lower range, everything's fine. If I'm outside of my upper and lower range, I get these pink triangles. And these pink triangles indicate that I've received some sort of a outlier into the normal flow of things. And so maybe these outliers need to be investigated to check out to see what's going on. Obviously, in your AWS environments, I'm sure you're taking advantage of things like malware detection and all that. Well, here we can simply display for you what's going on with your malware. So here I have a timeline, so I can see across my timeline how many different malware events I'm seeing, and how many were cleaned, and how many were deleted, and how many were quarantined, and that sort of thing. So you can, again, turn these on and off to see the sort of activity that's happening here to get a sense for, like I said, the activity that's going on. Also, I can also look again at a timeline here of how many medium threats, high threats, low threats, that sort of thing I'm getting. So this is just one aspect of how you can use the Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM product powered by AWS to help you. Just a simple example. Any questions about the example, folks? Make sure everybody can talk in case you got a question. By the way, if you do have a question as I'm going through this, feel free to interrupt me or type in the chat box, whichever you'd like. All right. So that's a demonstration. And now, actually, before I leave that demonstration, let me do one other thing. In the Sumo Logic environment, and again, this over here that I'm about to open up is called the navigation panel. So if I click up here where it says Sumo Logic or the little hamburger menu, this opens up my navigation panel. I mentioned about the shared library and the personal folder. Down here is our main menu. And in our main menu, we have this thing called an app catalog. And this app catalog are a whole bunch of about 200 applications pre-built that you and I can install. And obviously, if I wanted to focus on AWS, here are some of the applications that we have with regards to AWS. AWS Security Hub, here's basically the dashboard that I showed you. Here's an example of that. CloudTrail security monitoring, ECS. And again, it's not just security. Some of these deal with operations, operationally, how is your environment's doing, and that sort of thing. So additionally, if you, like I said, we not only deal with AWS and various other things associated with AWS, but we deal with other products, like I said, Zoom, Salesforce, various software as a service applications, various authentication providers, Okta, and one login and stuff like that. Of course, things like Office 365, Slack, all that fun stuff. So these are built-in applications, and you're going to see in a minute that we can take and we can look here for a application. I'm going to type in search for guard duty. And here I have this global intelligence for Amazon guard duty. And so here I can, you can, we can install this application. And when we install it, all we do is tell it where the data is, what we call the data that we're bringing in. And it will then provide these dashboards for me. So before I get there, let me switch environments for just a second, the training environment, and let me invite you to join me, and let's do this together. So if you wouldn't mind, why don't you do me a favor, fire up a browser, Google Chrome or Firefox browser, and go to service.sumologic.com. That's service.sumologic.com. And when you do that, it's going to give you something that's going to look like this. Let me log out. It should give you a place where it's asking you for an email and it's asking you for a password. Now, the next thing I want you to do is I'd like you to pick a 3-digit number. Any 3-digit number that you want, I'd like you to type it into the chat box. So if somebody's wanted to be James Bond 007, here's your opportunity, okay? Me personally, I'm partial to the number 603. Why 603? Because that's the area code for the state of New Hampshire where I live. But what I want you to do is pick that 3-digit number. As I said, type it into the chat box if you wouldn't mind. And then you're going to log in as Training Plus Analyst with that 3-digit number at sumologic.com. So you're going to log in as Training Plus Analyst with that 3-digit number. By the way, I'm going to put this in the chat box in case you all want it. Ed, would you please grab a 3-digit number? So 428 is good. Don't make it a 4-digit number, please. But thank you. Okay. I'm going to put this information in the chat box and make it a little easier for you. But take your 3-digit number, append it to the Training Plus Analyst at sumologic.com. And then the password is capital SECURITY, numeral 2, exclamation mark. Or in other words, security 22, exclamation mark. Now, this is our training environment, and you can use it today. You can use it tomorrow. You can use it next week, next month. We don't care. It's an open system. And all of our training materials are written using this environment. Now, the one thing I will tell you is the password will change. Every month on the first Monday of the month, that password changes. If you want to know what the new password is, I don't know what it's going to be for September yet, but when we change it, I will know. But if next month you want to look at our training environment and you want to be able to log in and you want the new password, just send me an email. So there's my contact information in the chat box. So you can reach out to me and I'll gladly tell you what the password is. But this is an open system. So again, you want us to log in as, with the email address. You want to log in with a password, you click sign in, and boom, you should be in. So what I'd like you to do is anybody who wants to log in, please log in. And when you're logged in, please, in the participant area, there's an option for you to raise your hand. Please raise your hand so I know that you're in. Because the next things that we're about to do together. So you and I can practice and play together here. So right now I show 3 of you look like you're logged in. I want to give you a minute for folks who want to log in. I realize some of you just want to listen and hang out. That's fine. I'm not expecting 100% participation here, but I do want to give you that opportunity. Yeah. All right, let me go ahead and lower the hands. And again, if you've logged in, right, you've logged in here. As I said, here's our navigation pane. If I click on that and open it up, or if I click anywhere with Sumo Logic up here and open this up, down here is our main menu. Again, here is that app catalog I was talking about. And in that app catalog, we can install apps. Now, truth be told, we have already installed some applications for you. So one of the exercises I want us to do is I want us to open up the navigation panel. So if it's not already open, open it up, please. And go into the library. Click on the library folder icon. And in the library folder icon, you will see that there is a folder here called Global Intelligence for Amazon Guard Duty. And I'm sure that most of you are very familiar with Amazon Guard Duty, right? It lets us see what's going on with attacks and all that fun stuff across the AWS environment, across the AWS system. So for example, when I open up this folder, I see there's 3 dashboards and a query. This first dashboard, which says Global Baseline, if I click on it, I can see, based on AWS's information, I can see the types of attacks that are going on. So within backdoor attacks, I can see a relative percentage here of what types of backdoor attacks am I seeing here, right? Denial of service attacks, different types of activity and attacks am I seeing? Behavioral type attacks, defense evasion attacks, all kinds of good and powerful information here on this chart. Down below, I can see my global threat share, and I can see that AWS is telling me that right now people are interested in EC2. Over the last 24 hours, it looks like most of the attacks have been around the EC2 area. Some have been about IAM user accounts, trying to access IAM user accounts. Somebody raised a hand, so please go ahead and ask your question, sir. Or ma'am, whoever raised their hand. Is there a question? Okay. So I get a breakdown here of the types of attacks that AWS has seen. I also get an idea of the severity of those attacks that they're seeing. And if I scroll down here, I've got a beautiful world map where I can see the attacks are originating from here, and they're being attacked on the US. It's a cryptocurrency attack, a Bitcoin attack, that sort of thing. So I can get a sense for where these attacks are coming from. A brute force attack, again, that's going, again, the west coast of the US, as well as over here into the east coast of the United States. An attack started from down here, discovery attack down here in South America. So it's kind of neat to see what's going on. Now, again, from a global perspective, this is very handy information. From your company perspective, how it affects you and your company, well, that's a different story. We're going to look at that in just a little bit. Down here, I can also look at the various rare threats that exist. Now, this is all really good information, and it helps us out. But what I want to know is, how is it affecting my company? Are they trying to attack my company, or, that sort of thing? So the second dashboard here is your company against that baseline. So here I can see, there we go. I can see that for a long time, over the last 7 days, things have been pretty quiet. In the last couple of days, things have started to peak up here a little bit. And then I can see what kind of attacks are those. Those are behavioral types of attacks. 99% are behavioral attacks. Although 1% here, or a little less 1%, is an authorized access attack. And then I can start seeing the, whether they're high, medium, or low as far as severity. So I can see what they're trying to attack, EC2, that sort of thing. And then the third dashboard in this is specific to my company. So now here I can see in my company, what am I starting to see? Those behavioral attacks I'm getting, right? The 99.1% here. Again, looks like a network port unusual activity. Network port prior authorization here. I can see again the percentage of behavioral versus unauthorized access specific to my company. And then I can see where these things are coming from. And, again, get an idea of threat levels. What are they trying to go after? Looks like my IAM user accounts. So gives you a chance to see where the threats are and how they're affecting you and your company. Now, do me a favor, don't everybody think, my gosh, there's so much madness and badness here in the world. We've obviously set this up to display and show some stories. So there is some activity here, right? Hopefully, if you installed this app, it'd be a lot quieter for you. Hopefully you wouldn't see as much activity, but we want to show you some activity. So we've simulated some activity here for you. So that's the guard duty, right? Now I mentioned that you and I could also install other applications. So you and I could go out here to the app catalog, and I could look, for example, for CrowdStrike. And here we have a built-in application that we could install with regards to CrowdStrike. And when we do that, we have to tell it, when we install these applications, we have to tell it where the data is coming from. You've got data from your AWS environment coming into Sumo. You've created these connections for that. We have to tell it that's how we get the data into Sumo Logic to display that information on these dashboards. These dashboards will automatically come in, they'll be stood up, and they'll get the data through these various sources. Okay. And so that's basically how that works. So as I said, we got a whole bunch of pre-built applications, including a whole bunch of compliance applications. So if I go back here on the exit out of this, go back and I look at my app catalog, and I just focus on compliance and security. Here are some compliance and security applications that you might find helpful, might find beneficial. Okay. All right. Any questions so far? So what we've been showing you is, again, something called Cloud SIEM powered by AWS. And what we would call it Sumo Logic Cloud Security Analytics, but that's okay. So we've got these log searches that you and I can generate, take these searches, create little panels, add those panels to dashboards, making it very easy to see. And then in our queries, we can take advantage of some advanced analytics, display things on maps, look at CrowdStrike data, all kinds of fun stuff to enhance and provide a lot more detail. Okay. That takes care of the audit and compliance. That takes care of this Cloud SIEM. These are really queries and that sort of thing. So that takes care of these first two things. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift gears. And we're going to talk about the Cloud SIEM Advanced, powered by AWS. Okay. By the way, I'm not sure if I have any Sumos on this call, people who work for Sumo. But again, in Sumo, we would call this our Cloud SIEM product. Okay. But when our partnership with AWS, it's called Cloud SIEM Advanced, powered by AWS. So this is what we're going to focus on now. So our Cloud Security Information and Event Management System Advanced is really a Cloud SIEM environment. It allows us to bring in the logs from AWS and a bunch of other sources, your firewalls, various network traffic, all kinds of event logs from Windows, whatever. And it's going to sit and compare all those logs against some MITRE ATT&CK framework rules. And if it finds those rules, it's going to generate something called a signal. And we're going to cluster those signals together and correlate those signals and create something called an insight. So this makes it very easy for you and for I to see really what's going on in your environment. Now, let me go through a couple of slides here and then we'll get into it and take a look at it. We first got involved with this project. We did a 45-day evaluation with a customer, okay? And in this 45-day evaluation with a customer, that we ingested 10 billion records. That's 10 billion records that came in from various sources, Windows events, firewall, AWS, guard duty, all kinds of stuff. And out of that, we generated 9.8 million signals. Now, a signal is when I have a record that matches one of my known rules. Now, the problem is that 9.8 million is a lot of signals for somebody to ingest. And a lot of SIEMs stop right there. They just generate the signals. What we're going to do is we're going to correlate those signals. So over a 2-week period of time, we're going to look either by IP address or by host name or by username or by some aspect of who, and we're going to combine those elements of who together, and we're going to generate insights over a 2-week period. Now, again, an insight is nothing more than a collection of signals. Each signal has a score. So if the collection of signals over a 2-week period is greater than 12 or greater, that's going to generate an insight. So this makes it very easy for an analyst, rather than having to look through logs and look through raw data and all that stuff. They can come to this heads-up display and they can see the insights, and that immediately tells them what they need to focus on. Now, in this 45-day trial evaluation we did, we found that there were 175 insights in those 45 days. Of those 75 insights, we found that 95 of them were no action required. It was telling us stuff that we already knew. You know, somebody did some maintenance on a firewall, generated some rules, fired off some signals and all that fun stuff, but there's no action required. Okay. 15 of them were false positives based on the business. And what we did is we adjusted the rules so those false positives went away. 65 of the 175 incidences were real incidences. And that means they got about an incident a day, a little over an incident a day. And the point is, this stuff happens automatically inside the Sumo Cloud SIEM advanced environment. So my question to you is, with your company, and maybe you have a SOC, maybe you don't have a SOC, that sort of thing. This is really targeted for companies that have a SOC, Security Operations Center. But how long would it take your company to be able to do something like this? Do you guys go sifting through the logs? Do you build dashboards? What? This does it automatically. So there's nothing that you have to worry about, nothing that you have to do. Now, I mentioned the term records, signals, and insights. Let's define that a little bit. So normally in our Sumo Logic environment, we have our normal collection and ingestion process. We take the various log messages and we ingest those in through our normal Sumo Logic environment. We are then going to take those log messages. We're going to parse out things like the IP address, the username, various types of information that we want. We'll map those to certain metadata fields. Whoops, excuse me. We'll map those to metadata fields that we want to. And then we'll enrich it. We'll take the IP address, for example, and domain name and send it to CrowdStrike and see if it's a known threat. So those generate records. And records are basically data that's coming in that says, hey, I've got some information here that's might be valuable. We're then going to take those records and we're going to go across a bunch of rules that we have. Now, these rules are based on the MITRE ATT&CK framework. So using the MITRE ATT&CK framework, we are going to compare these records against these rules. If there is a match, that means that I have a record that matches a known issue. Therefore, we're going to generate a signal. And that signal means there's something wrong, something we want to look at, something we want to investigate. We're also going to extract out the entity. Who is the entity? The username, the IP address, the host name, some entity. Then what we're going to do is we're going to correlate that. We're going to take that entity and we're going to keep an eye on it for the next 2 weeks. And if the number of signals and the amount of those signals scores high enough, it automatically generates an insight. And that is what we're going to display to make it easy to see. Okay. Paul asked a really good question here in the chat box. Is this session being recorded? Yes, Paul, it certainly is. You should get a copy of it when this session is over. So I hope that answers your question. Thanks a lot for asking it. Are there any other questions, folks? Okay. All right, what do you say we take a look at this then? So let's do this. Again, I asked you all to log in earlier. So hopefully you've all logged into our training environment. Again, if you need or if you want to log in, let me take this credential information here again, paste it back in the chat box. All you need to do is go to service.sumologic.com in a Google Chrome or Firefox web browser. For the email address, because it's going to ask you to log in, you need to log in as training plus analyst with a 3-digit number. You can pick that 3-digit number, whatever 3-digit you want, at sumologic.com. And then you're going to log in with a password of security 22 exclamation. Now, truth be told, I'm going to log in with my account. And the reason is I have more privileges than you do. So if you get stuck, if there's a problem, whatever, I can help you out. Okay. So I'm logged in with my credentials so I can see this stuff. So when you're logged in here, right, maybe this navigation panel is open, maybe it's closed. I just closed it. You need to open it up, and down here you'll see something called Cloud SIEM Enterprise. And if you click on the Cloud SIEM Enterprise, this is going to take us to our Cloud SIEM. Now, seeing all kinds of neat and cool stuff here. First thing, for those of you who are gamers, if any of you have ever worked and played the game World of Warcraft, which I suspect a few of you have, this heads-up display might look familiar to you. In fact, when we were building the interface, we consulted with the UI developers of World of Warcraft on how to build this user interface. So a little trivia for you. Now, what are we looking at here? Well, over here on the left, we see that our system is online and we have a time selector. So whatever I put here as far as my time selector, all the values that I will see are based on my time range. This radar, Insight Radar heads-up display is also based on the time range that I select. So by default, it's set for 24 hours. Sounds good. Now here, it's telling me in the last 24 hours, we've ingested 666,000 records. That's up 28% in the last 24 hours. We've also generated 22,000 signals. That's up 80% from the last 24 hours. We generated 4 insights, and that's down 19% from the last 24 hours. Now, remember, not only is this a security information and event management system, but it's also an event management system. So you can see how long, you've got some metrics here to see how long it's taking you to resolve these, to remediate these, and go through the various stages. So these metrics will tell you automatically how you're doing as far as performance. I'm sure you've got some sort of SLA level here that you want to maintain. So it'll automatically track that for you. You'll find that we have our insights, have a status, new. You can customize that status if you want to, but maybe new, in progress, closed, and you can maybe send it to your SWAT team or whatever. You can customize the status. But right now I can see that my 4 new insights here are all new. I can also see, if I scroll down here, the timeline of when these insights occurred. So these red things are my new insights, my 4 new insights. Previously, it looked like somebody closed some of the other insights. So I can see when insights get closed, when they get opened, and stuff like that along this timeline. Okay. So that's my left side of this indicator. In the middle, I have my heads-up display. And this heads-up display, if I look at the very outside of it, these are my various records. So we had a spike of records that occurred on the 18th, right around 5 o'clock in the morning. Okay, 5 o'clock to 5:30, a bit of a spike. Okay, I can then see the inner circle here, the middle circle here, shows me my signals. And so again, about a little after that, about somewhere between 9 and 11 o'clock, I see that I've generated some more signals. By the way, this will automatically refresh as new data comes in. And then I've got my various insights. So here is my latest insight right here. Slightly older insight, so forth, so on. I could click on the insights here and investigate them and see them if I want to. Lots of different ways to get to the insights. I'll get there in just a second. But these red triangles represent my insights. Now, over here on the right side is, in fact, my latest insight. So here I can see my insight has a number. All of the insights, all of the signals and stuff are numbered to keep track of them. The command and control denotes the MITRE ATT&CK framework designation that this is given based on the MITRE ATT&CK framework rules. Here I can see who the entity is. In this case, it's a username of Rico Dynamite. And Rico Dynamite generated this insight, which consists of 2 signals. And I can see the timeline of when these signals occurred. It started on August 10th, ended on August 19th. And then this y-axis is the severity. So my x-axis is time, my y-axis is severity. I could, if I want to, click on this and go right into this insight and look up information about it, but bear with me. Down here in the lower right-hand corner, this is my syslog. So as I close insights, as I resolve insights, as I get new insights, stuff like that, it'll be my syslog here. Yeah. Now up here, I've got some icons. I can click on this and see all my insights, showing me my latest insight first and then going down. I can also click on this and see all my signals. I can click on this and I can see all my entities. So I want to see, who's my biggest threat here, right? So I can see where my entities are coming from. These are my records. And typically, because we've received like 88,000 records, we have to write an expression to see what records we want to see here. And then here, these are where you and I can create rules and rule tuning and various other things to customize this. Also, depending on your privileges, you may see some. I've got more things than you have if you're clicking along with me. Also, here's where we can customize this. And again, I've got more privileges than you do. You should be able to see nothing here. You shouldn't be able to see the gear. Okay. When we teach you the admin class, we give you elevated privileges and you can see some of these things. Over here, I have an announcement. You see I got a little red icon on there. If I click on that announcement, it proceeds to show me every 2 weeks, we will update the rules. So you can, I can, we can see what the new rules are that we update. Now, if there's an emergent rule that suddenly appears or whatever, we'll immediately deploy it. When we'll test it, fix it, deploy it, test it, and send it out to you as quickly as we can. But at a minimum, we update rules and stuff every 2 weeks. So I can see what rules were updated, what things were changed. Now, we've got our built-in rules that we create from the MITRE ATT&CK framework. You can also add some specific rules yourself if you want to. So you and I can create your own rules. Your business is your business. And let's face it, in your business, maybe there's some things that your business has that's a little undifferent than a lot of businesses. So you can do that. Okay. Mark Anthony asked a question. There's a designated number that needs to be assigned to the email user login credentials. Whatever number you want, Mark. So pick whatever number you want, sir. And 3-digit number. Sorry, it's got to be a 3-digit number. So if you want to be James Bond and go with 007, you can do that. Like I said, I picked 603 because that's the area code of New Hampshire. I also picked 985, which is the hull number of the USS Cushing, the last destroyer I was on before I got off of active duty. So pick whatever 3-digit number you want. Okay. And that goes for not only you, Mark, but anybody else who wants to play. Over here is, of course, where our documentation is, our API documentation, our product documentation, that sort of thing. This icon right here lets me switch back to the Sumo Logic interface that you and I logged into before. So this takes us back to what we call the Continuous Intelligence Platform, CIP. And then, as I said, if we want to, we can click on this. It will take us back to our Cloud SIEM Advanced. And then over here, I can see who I'm logged in as. Okay. And so it's nice to know information. Now, so that's our interface. Are there any questions about this interface? By the way, if you want to go back to the standard heads-up interface, it's this icon over here to the far left. So that far left will take you back to here. Okay. So let me do this. Let me go into an example here. And let's talk through an example here. Let's talk to see what's basically going on here. Okay. What I'm going to do here, and if you want to follow along, please do. I'm going to click on this little insight icon right here, this little icon right there for going to my insights. And again, you've heard the word signals, records, insights, and you may be a little fuzzy on this insight, signal, insight, thing. So let me see if I can help you out. Okay. If I go into a insight, and I'm going to go into this insight 15262, command and control, right? It's made up of 2 unique signals, 2 total. If I click on this insight, it's going to take me into that insight. And this is what a SOC analyst does, by the way. SOC analysts will investigate these insights. So they will click on an insight here, And we can, if we want to, give a change its status. And again, you can customize the status. And you can assign this to a specific user if you want to. We can see, if I click away here, we can see who the entity is about this insight. So I said this insight consists of two signals. Over on the right side, here are my two signals. Okay. My two signals. In fact, they're represented on a timeline. So here's my first signal. It's an AWS API call from a terminated Active Directory account. And if I go to the far right side, here is my second signal, an AWS network firewall high severity alert. Okay. Now, so these are my two signals. Now, this first signal here, the AWS API call, has a score of 6. When you and I create rules, or the standard rules that we have, we arbitrarily give them a score, anywhere from 0 to 10. Okay. Score 0 to 10. So depending on how serious it is, we might make it a higher number. If it's not that serious, I'm going to make it a lower number. The point is that this alert, this signal fired, and it generated a score of 6. Now, remember I said that we correlate our signals based on the entity. So this entity, Rico Dynamite, on this date, generated this signal at 6 points. Within 2 weeks, or in this case, actually 8 days later, the same user did something else that generated another alert, or another signal. And this signal has a score of 11. 11 plus 6 is 17. If the combined score is 12 or greater, that's what generates an insight. So a combined score of 12 or greater over a 2-week period of time, that's what causes the insight. So rather than having to go through a bunch of low-level logs to see what's going on and that sort of thing, I, as an analyst, can come right in here, focus on an insight, get assigned an insight, whatever, and I can go investigate that insight. So here it is, command and control. Now, the problem is, if you will, if you forgive me, is that this is nice. I see these two signals, but I'm not sure what these signals are trying to tell me. Now, I think you and I can probably infer that when it says AWS API call from a terminated Active Directory account, I think we can infer that this means that somebody was trying to use an API call on AWS from an account that's been terminated. And if I click on this signal, now I can see more information about this signal. So I can see the description, so I can understand why this is an issue, right? It's a terminated Active Directory account that's trying to do something through an API call. Shouldn't happen, right? That user no longer exists, and therefore it shouldn't happen. I can see the score. Again, who was the user who was doing this? It was Rico Dynamite. I can see some information here about date and time, where it was found on the DNS server. I can scroll down here and I can see various fields, metadata tags, ASN numbers. This is the metadata stuff we get off the logs. And so I can see again, the DNS server detected this. And I can get a sense for basically what this is trying to tell me. So somebody's trying to use a terminated account. Okay, great. Now, what I want to do is look at the next signal. I could, since I'm in a signal, I could go back here to signals, or I could just click on this button right here, and it will then take me to my next signal and open it up for me. So here it says AWS network firewall high severity. So somebody's trying to do something in an AWS environment across the network firewall, and it doesn't like that. Here I can see the source IP. I can see the destination IP. Some cases I can see where this is looked up from. In fact, it's part of AWS's organization. Again, I can see various activities, methods, things like that. Malicious user agent, what port are they trying to use? Mapping values, extracted fields might be helpful in trying to troubleshoot this. Okay. Now there's a couple of other things I can do here. Okay. this is great. I now have a pretty good idea of what's going on with this insight. Somebody took a deleted account, right? Tried to do an API call with it. And then they're trying to now access my network firewall severity and trying to access it using this Rico Dynamite thing. Now, one thing you'll notice next to entities and various things, you might see this little icon. It's got about 6 little dots next to it. Or if I go over in other places, you will see that 6 little dot. That 6 little dot, if I click on it, gives me a context menu. And you can customize this as well. But in this context menu, if I want to, I can search, do a whois search on this username, or I can do a URL query search, or I can go in Sumo Logic and say, besides the stuff that's going on with my Cloud SIEM environment, where else has Rico Dynamite been trying to access over the last 30 days? Okay, so I can quickly run a query here, and I can see what other places Rico's been trying to log into. And in this case, I can see the different sources that where they're trying to come into. So my signals, my test signals, my Windows environments, Windows logs, my endpoint, my guard duty. I can see where I'm seeing the name Rico Dynamite. So you can see what other activity Rico Dynamite has been up to. Now, again, this is a SIEM product, security information and event management. So what would I want to do? I want to go out to this user. I want to find out what they're doing, have a talk with this user, maybe disable their account, maybe recreate the account, whatever. And then in here, in my insight, is where I can add all the things that I'm doing, what actions I am taking, what things I want to do here as far as actions and all that sort of thing. Maybe that employee will be terminated. Who knows? Okay, it depends what you find out. But you and I can go in here and see the details of these signals, the enrichments, various other aspects of it to get a sense for what is this trying to tell us. And then after we get this all done and we can mark it as resolved, or if we need to, I'm sorry, let me go back here for a moment. Let me go back here for a moment. I can also, if I need to, I can also, again, if I want to have somebody go out and visit this user, I may want to send a create a JIRA ticket or a PagerDuty ticket or something like that. So you can customize these actions if you want to again, notify folks via Microsoft Teams or Slack or PagerDuty or whatever activity you want to take. And again, what actions you want to take. And as I said, you can document the actions and the resolution down here. And then ultimately, what you're probably going to do when it's all said and done, going to change the status of this to close or whatever. And again, these statuses can be customized as well. So that's what a SOC analyst does. In fact, if I were to show it to you in a slide, a day in the life of a SOC analyst kind of looks like this. They find themselves an insight, they get assigned an insight, whatever. They examine each of those signals that makes up that insight. Then they develop some conclusions based on what they find with those signals. They make some hypotheses, whatever, conclusions. And so then they're going to take action based on that. Again, maybe it's something they take care of. Maybe they send to the IT team, the SOC team, the Network Operations Center team, whomever. So again, they'll take various actions. Then, like I said, they'll update the status. They'll, document it, that sort of thing, close it out, and then they'll go through it all over again. So this is a typical day in the life of a SOC analyst. And this is why this product tends to lend itself well for organizations that have SOCs. Questions? Yeah. So the last steps we typically do are take actions, and then we, like I said, update the status and close it up. All right, well, here's what I'd like you all to do. For those of you who are playing, I'd like you all to go into our insights. And into our insights, I see one here. Scroll down. Discovery with execution and initial access. This is Insight 15261. And if we go into this one, I would like you all to look at the signals. Looks like there's 3 signals here. And I'd like you to tell me what you think is going on here. And I'd also be curious to know what what your company would do about something like this. How would you handle this sort of situation? Okay. I assume your company has certain policies on stuff like this. So. But I'd like you to investigate this particular insight, look it over, look at the signals, click around, and tell me what you're going to do. If you don't mind, I'm going to give you a few minutes here for that. So let me give you a 5-minute timer here. Bear with me a second. And get 5 minutes to review this stuff, and then we will come back and we'll talk about it. So when this timer gets down to 0, let's talk about this. Any questions? All right. And then I'll talk to you guys in about 4 minutes and 40 seconds. I'll be quiet. Thanks. All right. So 5 minutes has passed. So who would like to tell me, based on this insight, what they have discovered or what they think is going on? Don't be bashful. Type in the chat box if you like, open up your mic, whichever you prefer. Anybody, any takers? Okay. Well, let's take a look at this first signal. And again, these signals aren't in order, an ascending order. So this is the first signal. So if I click on the signal, I see that I've got a enumeration of all users. So Microsoft has a protocol called SAMR, which allows us to do various things. It's a remote protocol. And it's trying to do an enumeration of all users, okay? Has a severity score of 3, and again, that's how we got there. This is all coming from this one IP address, 192.168.38.106. So from this IP address, we detected a rule where it's trying to do an enumeration of all users, okay? And again, I can look down here and I can see more information, source IP, destination IP address, that sort of thing. Again, what's it trying to do? It's obviously trying to get into my NT, server environment here, destination ports, and again, I can see basically get a sense for what's happening. Okay, so it's trying to do an enumeration of all my users. Not a good thing, right? Then if I look at the next signal here, I've got a user password brute force attack. Wow, now that I know who my users are, let's try to figure out what their passwords are, right? Let's try to do a brute force attempt. So again, from this one IP address, somebody's trying to do a brute force attempt on various user accounts, right? And that's going to maybe cause user accounts to get locked out or whatever. So obviously it's a problem we want to resolve. We can then go on to the next one, next signal. And here we've got a file, Cisco. Cisco detected a W.32 file mal parent threat detected. And so if I look at this particular signal again from this IP address, somebody is trying to send a malware file, specifically what kind of file and all that fun stuff. Here I can actually look at the field tags associated with this file, where this file was located. By the way, remember earlier I mentioned about those 6 dots here to the right of the field. I can click on that and I can bring up a context, be able to search for that file in my environment and things along those lines. Again, what's the file base name? Again, regardless whether they name it or not, we deal with a file hash. And so again, that file hash is how we identified that file. And so somebody's trying to bring in some sort of a bad file here. That's not helping our cause. And if I click on the next signal, that takes me back to the first one. So there are only 3 signals here. So I've got somebody trying to, do an enumeration, identify all my user accounts, right, for my domain controller. Then they're trying to do a brute force attack, trying to log in, and then they're trying to spread bad files. So what would I want to do? I'd probably, there you go. Mark Anthony has put in the chat box here. Yeah, he's trying to say it looks like a brute force attempt by Rico Dynamite. So it's not Rico Dynamite. It's that IP address with a malware file. You're absolutely right. So obviously I want to take this IP address offline. I want to have my IT department scrub it, clean it, malware it, check it. I want to see who's been using it, that sort of thing, and then maybe bring it back in service. So this is an example of how you and I could use this Cloud SIEM product. And my question to you all is, does your company have such a thing? Does it make sense? Is it something you think is useful? I think it's very useful. So, but again, I'm from the software company, so I might be biased a little bit. So that is the Cloud SIEM Advanced product. So any questions about the Cloud SIEM Advanced product? One other thing I want to show you. Let's say that you and I want to create our own rules. As I said before, there's a bunch of built-in rules that you and I can have and stuff like that. So if I go in here to rules, right, I can see that we've got 783 rules right now. Most of those are all built in from, we provide those rules and we maintain those rules and all that fun stuff from Sumo Logic. But if you want to, you can create your own rule. Now there's 4 types of rules. There's a simple match rule where you have a criteria, and if it matches that criteria, the rule gets fired. You've got a threshold rule where you've got a certain number of count of situations within a given time, then that creates a threshold rule. A chain rule is kind of chaining up 2 threshold rules together, where I've got, maybe I want to see somebody failed to log in 5 times and they successfully logged in. That'd be a chain rule. And then I've got these aggregation rules, which again, I can say if somebody's trying to log into an account, numerous times, I can create an aggregation rule for that. Or maybe they're trying to, do a bunch of DNS lookups all of a sudden. I can create an aggregation rule for that. Sorry about that, folks. I was doing some sneezing. I was trying to mute there. So, okay. So Mark Anthony asked another good question here. Do we have access to the service.sumo logic after the Zoom meeting? Yes, sir, you do. You've got access as long as that user ID and password will work for you, which means it will work for you until the first Monday in September. Okay, at which time we will change the password. And again, in case you need it, Mark, or anybody does, if you want to play past that, you can send me an email and I will gladly let you know what the new password is once we change it. I don't know what it is until we change it. Okay, just to be honest with you. But yes, you can play in here. In fact, we've got a whole bunch of training, self-paced training that you and I can access in here as well. So I'll show you that here in just a little bit. So yeah. So again, this is a great opportunity. Hopefully you guys see the value and all that sort of thing. Now back to my issue here. If I want to create a rule, I can simply click create if I have privileges to do so. And I'm going to give this thing a name. So I'm going to put my initials in here. John Meredith, match rule, call it, whatever I want to call it. The reason I'm calling it this specific thing is I'm going to clean it up after the class is over. I don't want this rule to exist anymore. And right now that rule is going to be enabled. Now, and when you create a rule, there's 2 sides to this. The side over here is what's the logic to this? And then the side over here is what do you want to display in that rule? So I can sit there and create a match rule that says, if the user's email is equal to, and I'm going to type in a single quote here. If it's my email, because I know John Meredith's a suspicious dude. If that's email, if somebody comes in with this email address, then I can then specify something. And so here I can specify based on the IP address, based on the MAC address, based on the host name. Let's see if we have no email. Let's try username here real quick. Yep. Username. Okay, so I'm going to display the user entity, the username here, that email address. And I can sit there and specify here something I want to put in here. Suspicious user, forgive the spelling, and I can put in a summary, John is a suspicious guy, whatever. And I can put a description in here, and then I decide what score I want to give this. So I can, decide to put in here. And then also down here, something we didn't talk a great deal about, but the MITRE ATT&CK framework has MITRE ATT&CK techniques and tactics. So we can go in here and identify the techniques and tactics associated with this. This is a situation where an initial access, somebody's trying to initially log in, right? And so I can add additional tactics and techniques from the MITRE ATT&CK framework here that I want them to be, that I want this to be associated with, right? So maybe it's about discovery or collection or whatever you want. So you can add those. And then all you have to do here is hit submit. Now, I intentionally did this. It says golden triangle. This system will keep track of if you're making a mistake. In fact, I can't click submit. I can click on it all day. Nothing's going to happen because I have this warning. A description is required. Okay. So I've got to fill this out. Houston, they have a problem. Whatever. I can put in whatever I want in the description here, right? Again, John is a suspicious guy, whatever you want to put in here. Now I can submit that. And now that rule is going to be in effect. So I've created a new match rule, this new rule right here. This shows me if this match rule has been used and been detected. Let me go back to rules for a second. And if I go back to rules for a second, I take this rule right here, the first one. I can see if this rule has in fact been found and been used. So I can see the activity of this particular rule. That's what that's trying to show you. Now, I'm going to go back here if you don't mind. And I am going to search based on the name of that rule. There it is. And I can disable it if I want to, which obviously I would want to do. Or more importantly, I probably really want to delete it. And so you can create your own rules because let's face it, your environment, your company's environment might be a little different from the norm. There's certain things you may want to protect from, certain risks that you might have. So you might want to create your own rules. Keep in mind that if you create your own rules, you maintain them, you control them. Okay. We're not going to update your rules. We're going to update our rules. So I want you to be aware of that. One other thing, besides rules, there's something in here called rule tuning. And rule tuning allows you and me the ability to create exceptions to that rule. For example, there's a rule that says, hey, if somebody's trying to modify the firewall settings, we want you to know about that. And that makes a lot of sense, except that when the person who's supposed to be doing the maintenance on the firewall does maintenance, we don't want to get that rule fired. So there's rule tunings are where we can create an exception that says, if, Jay Meredith at sumologic.com, who's the guy that does the maintenance on the firewall, if you see that, and in this rule tuning, I apply it to a rule, my rule being my firewall rule or whatever. Here, let me just show you what I mean. So here we can create a rule tuning expression. So I get to pick the rules that I want. And if I just type in here firewall, maybe we're talking about the checkpoint firewall. So if this rule goes off, then I want to make an exception to this. And in this case, I want to do something again, like, email, user email is equal to, again, single quote, Jay Meredith at sumologic.com. Now, here's where it gets to be kind of fun. And you get to have all kinds of fun with Boolean logic. Those of you who were computer science majors in college, I'm sure you had more than enough fun with Boolean logic. But right now, the way this rule reads is if John Meredith comes in here, we are going to include and apply this rule to John Meredith. So if John Meredith's the guy that does the maintenance of my firewall, every time he does maintenance, this rule is going to fire. I really do not want this rule to fire when John Meredith is playing. So I can either choose to change this to exclude, or I can choose to say instead of equal, not equal to, and make that include. So whatever logic that you want to make this happen, you can certainly do that. The reason I'm getting the golden triangle down here is I never gave this thing a name. Okay. So I can, you can, we can go up here. And again, I'm going to call it JWM rule tuning expression. And voila, I now have this exception that I want. So there's rule tuning that you can do. You can create your own rules if you want to. In a minute, this rule will show up. It may take a minute or so before it shows up. So bear with me a moment. There we go. Found 4. There it is. So, and then I can go in here and delete it. So there's rule tuning, those rules, And then there's also custom insights. Remember, an insight doesn't fire until that score is 12 or greater. Maybe you want to test in a new rule and you want to immediately fire a custom insight. You can do that, okay? You can create a custom insight that says, I want this to fire based on this rule. So something else that you can create. Now, are there any questions with regards to this SIEM product? Any questions at all? All right, let's wrap this up. And let's get you guys ready. If you want to take the exam, you certainly can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But again, so we have focused today on, Vinay talked about some of the security and some of the, products and features available with AWS. Again, very important, very powerful, very good stuff. And then we focused on in Sumo Logic, how we with security analytics, or as we call it, Cloud SIEM powered by AWS, we can correlate those signals, investigate those threats, automate those actions, basically to see what's going on. And again, we've got the Cloud SIEM product that lets us create those queries, use those built-in applications, see that sort of thing. And then we've got the Cloud SIEM Advanced by AWS that allows us, it's actually a SIEM product that you and I can use, okay? Hang on a second, let me go past these slides here. So, and again, you can modify existing rules by using rule tuning. You can apply multiple rule tuning expressions to multiple rules, as well as, again, if you change the rules, if we maintain the rules, the rule tunings will still be applied. This makes it very, very easy. Here's the slide I wanted to get to. I apologize. So again, you and I can, again, use this tool for audit and compliance, make it very easy. We can write our own queries, create our own queries, see what's going on. And then, of course, you've also got this Cloud SIEM Advanced, which tends to work best with companies that have their own SOC, Security Operations Center. Okay. As far as getting a free trial of this, if you want to get a free trial of this, you can go out to a specific URL. Now, of course, we've got this lovely QRC code that you can use to get you there. Or we have a URL. If you'll bear with me a second while I take this URL, and I am going to copy it, and I am going to put it in the chat box. And just for fun here, I'm also going to click on it and take me there, okay? So here, ladies and gentlemen, if you want a free trial of Sumo Logic, you can go up here and you can register for that free trial. That's what that URL does. That's where it's going to take you, where you can sign up and get a free trial of the Sumo Logic environment there. And you can play with it. You can have your own environment. You don't have to go to our training environment. So that's one thing we want to make you aware of. So again, you can scan this QRC code if you want, take that link that I pasted in there, that sort of thing. We've got a whole bunch of training that will help you guys as far as accessing materials and all that fun stuff. I'll talk about that in just a minute here. Okay. Mark asked a good question. Is there, besides the recording, is there a copy of the presentation as well? Typically, Mark, no, we didn't put the slides. We won't attach the slides to that. We will attach the recording. So the recording is obviously playing the slides. So hopefully that works, just to be fair. Okay. As far as Sumo Logic is concerned, our next major event is Illuminate. Okay. So Illuminate is our Sumo Logic virtual conference. It's virtual. I don't care where you are in the world. We're going to be running classes on the 13th, specifically in a lot of areas. We'll be having Cloud SIEM classes, security analytics and monitoring classes, as well as observability classes and things like that. So it's September 13th and 14th. If you want to go out to Sumo Logic website, www.sumologic.com, go into events, you can register for it. It's absolutely free. Okay. And then the other thing is, of course, you can also see what training we're going to have after Illuminate. Right now, we're on a training freeze until Illuminate. And then if you want to attend our self-paced courses, there is this nice little URL right there. And if you don't mind, let me go ahead and take this URL and copy it and paste it into the chat box. So here in this URL, Here in this URL, we have a section here called Become a Sumo Logic Expert. And here is where you can take our various self-paced courses. So if you're on a security focus, and I assume most of you are, you can go into security here. And here is where you can talk about the security pipeline. This is our security monitoring self-paced course. Here's our Cloud SIEM self-paced course for analysts. Here's our Cloud SIEM self-paced course for administrators. And as you can see, we have a few other courses that you might find helpful. You can take those courses, they're absolutely free. Free is my favorite price. Our belief is that we should make it easy for you to learn and be able to use the product. In fact, we found that to be very, very, very successful for us. Okay. Now, if I go back for a second, we also have, hang on. Okay. We also have a bunch of micro lessons, right? Some of you might be interested in micro lessons. So you can filter, for example, here on Cloud SIEM, and there's a bunch of 5-minute, 3-minute, 5-minute little videos here that you can watch on how to do something with the Cloud SIEM product. Or maybe you want to focus on security. And again, you can filter based on security and see a whole bunch of these lovely little videos on security. Okay. So a bunch of micro lessons there that you and I can, quickly watch and see what's going on. Okay. And here in our recorded live training, this kind of goes back to Mark's question, and that is in our certification classes that we have, our 3-hour-long classes. There, Mark, to answer your question, we have, for example, here the Cloud Security Monitoring class. We have a copy of the class, a recording of the class, copy of the slides, and a copy of the lab guide. So if you want to go out here and you want to download any of this stuff and play in our training environment, you're certainly welcome to do so. And again, that's all of our various certification classes. And then, of course, here's where you can take the certification exams if you want to. So we're trying to make it easy for you. Okay. So there is that information. Any questions about that? All right. Last ask of me, actually, a couple of things I still do, but one of my asks, or one of my, do that for a second here. My request of you is we'd love your feedback on this session. Okay. So if you would not mind, we would appreciate it if you go into this link that I'm putting in the chat box. Take a moment or two and fill out a survey. Give us your thoughts. Give us your feedback, suggestions, ideas, whatever. What can we do better? How can we make this better for you? Now, there's one or two things I want to talk about. But before I get into those one or two more things, what questions do you all have? What things can we help you with? I've shown you how you can sign up for a free trial. I've given you the feedback survey. The only other thing I want to mention to you is if you want to take the exam, you're going to go to this URL, partnertraining.sumologic.com. And in there, it's going to ask for an access code, and I'll put that access code in the chat window in just a little bit. And it will, you fill out the rest of the information, okay? And put in the access code that I'm going to give you. And then it will take you to where you can take the exam that covers the material for this session that I just went through. So if you want to take it, you're welcome to take it. If you don't want to take it, you certainly don't have to, okay? Let me take a moment here and take some information here and copy it in. Just bear with me one moment. Okay, so there's the URL and then the access code in case you need it. That's in the chat box now. So there is that information for you as well. Otherwise, on behalf of myself And Vinay, we want to thank you for spending the time with us. And if there's anything we can do to help you, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm going to turn my camera on just so you realize there is a person back here. Again, want to thank you all for spending the last hour and 45 minutes with us. So please be safe. We look forward to seeing you at Illuminate. We look forward to seeing you at an AWS event, or AWS reInvent, and all the various other AWS events that happen around the world. So
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, folks. Vinay, is there something you'd like to answer?
Hello, John.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Actually, I have to ask something. Does Sumo Logic have any integration to identify any ISP or malicious count or blacklisted status for external IPs that we are getting log for?
Okay. I heard the Sumo Logic have any data, and then the part of that is what I missed. So I missed part of your question.
Does any integration Sumo Logic have to identify ISP of external IP?
Yes. We have, like I said, we have CrowdStrike. We can look up that IP address. Plus, we can obviously have links to other reverse DNS lookups and stuff like that to see information about that IP address. That's built into the product. Does that help?
Yeah. Okay.
Great. Thanks for asking. Any other questions before I turn it over to Vinay? Any other questions? Okay. Mark says,
John, it's Mark. I
Yeah.
think there's a problem with that survey URL, that link.
okay. I suspect, well, if there's something wrong with it, well, when we send you the follow-up email, we'll probably put another survey in there. So
All
my
right.
apologies on that. I did not test it out beforehand. I'm sorry. So we'll definitely make sure we send you the follow-up email. We'll send you a link that works. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. Any other questions? Vinay, anything you'd like to answer?
I'm good. Just want to thank everyone for being here. I know my content is only for a few minutes. It's mostly you who have been doing everything.
All right. Well, folks, thank you all for being with us. Again, if anybody's going to stick around and take the exam, I will stick around with you, but I am going to turn off the recording.